Hi, in this session let us learn about unpivoting the data. First, why do we unpivot the data? Second, what is transpose? Third, what are the options for unpivoting the data? And the difference between fourth pivot. In this Excel sheet I've got some data which is displayed like this. For small and size 10 for example, I've got these colors available there. I want to unpivot this data for example and get the data something like this as my output. All small records to appear with number 10 over here as a repeat. In front of that, these colors should appear vertically down. That is why we need to unpivot the data to bring horizontal records to vertical, repeating the initial columns 1 or 2. In this case, let's now take this data to Power Query and try to organize the data in this format. First of all, trying to see what is the transpose option available there. Let us now try to apply transpose here. Control C to copy in Excel for example. Go to a new location, open Page Special, Control Alt V, transpose. OK. I can see that my data has got transferred from row number 1, which is my header for example over here, to this particular column over here. So size number, color 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 applies over here. That's how transpose in Excel works. If I go and apply transpose in Power Query, this particular column will be discarded and the transpose will happen from the record section over here. However, in this case we can notice that first record horizontal appears vertically over here, then second record horizontal appears vertically over here. That is transpose. Changing the complete orientation of the data set available from horizontal to vertical in this case. That's what Excel does for transpose. Let's try to post the data in Power Query and try to see transpose as well as unpivot the data, which should give me this output. And then we'll try to pivot that also. When you go to Power Query, we need to apply data from table and range. We can apply format as table in advance, or we can continue to apply hereafter also. It picks up the data automatically for the entire data. I want this much only for example, because there's a connect with the cell over here and this row has a connect with the cell over here. That's why I took the entire data. I must make sure my data is correctly selected. My table has headers, yes of course. OK, and that goes to Power Query after the selection. That shows my table 1 as my table available here. Let's zoom in Power Query by pressing Ctrl Shift and plus sign here to zoom in Power Query. I can then rename this particular table as my size table. That's my base table available over here. Enter. I can now create a duplicate of that. Right click, duplicate, one copy here, back to the base table, right click, duplicate, second copy here. So here I go to the first copy and rename that as transpose. Enter to save that. Right click on second copy, rename that as unpivot. Enter. That's what we need to apply. So my tables are same all over. We can see that over here. Keeping the base table exactly as it is, we go to the transpose option over here and we apply transform tab. Transpose available over here. That's the option. Once I apply that here, for example, you can see that the conversion has taken place and I can see the first record over here. If you compare that with Excel, for example, over here, you can see that in Excel, transpose is converting my first header also as my first record, whereas in this case, the first record here, small 10 black blue, small 10 black blue, has been taken as my first column over here. That's how transpose appears in Power Query. That does not solve my problem. So transpose is basically orientation change of the entire data from the rows to the columns in this case. But when I go to unpivot the data, what do I know? I know that I've got to get my columns across the way I showed the output earlier, which is something like this. I want this column, and subsequently all columns applied over here. Let's see how can we do that. So once I go to the set available here, for example, I can control click this column over here, and the other columns I need to unpivot, for example. So I can select these two columns, right click and unpivot other columns, or I can simply go to transform tab, unpivot other columns over here. And the moment I do that over here, I can see that the output is the way I want it there. I like to keep a copy of this also, duplicate, and keep this copy, for example, without the attribute column. I can right click on that and remove this. That's what I get over here. If I compare that with the output over here, you can notice that I've got small 4 times, small 4 times, with 10 4 times, blue, black, green and red, blue, black, green and red. The order might be different, but then we got the records the way we wanted. Then medium over here 5 times, we see that also, and got the records over here. So the output created is basically unpivot columns over here. That gives me the option for the output in this case. If I need to go back to my pivot, for example, from here, and if I see a data something like this, for example, I need that color column here. This I can mark as pivot, for example. That's renamed over here. I want the same table back again, so I can click on the attribute here, which is my color title. So I can just write the title over here. Then I go to the value, which is actually the color over here. Apply that, and selecting that column here, for example, if I go to pivot column here, for example, what do I see? I see size option available there. I can then go to color in this case, apply advanced option over here. Because if I try that right away, I can get the count available, which is not what I want. So the impact of this particular query will be showing me numbers over here, which shows me in pivot table also in Excel. So I cross it over here completely, go back here and try pivot table again, for example, with pivot column. Select on size, apply color. I want that color. Go to advanced options without count, because text can't take the sum. That's why count is shown over here. So without count, I go to don't aggregate at all. Apply this only and work on this. Once I apply this option over here, I can see I get the same pivot table back the way I got it earlier. So if you verify this now, for example, over here, you can match it. It's the same size, order is different here because my size number is differently ordered. I can go here, click on the drop down, try sort ascending over here, and we can see small, medium, large, extra large 1 and 2, small, medium, large, extra large 1 and 2, all black and last blue, all black and last blue. We get that over here. So we got the pivot table back to the same stage that we saw earlier. That's how we can see how conversion from the base table to the unpivot of the data, then back to the pivot of the data is possible using Power Query. So anyways, you've got the data available there. We've got good answers available in Power Query over here. I can then go back to Home tab and close and apply. So that data finally goes back to my Excel file, which was there already, containing these options now and having these outputs available there. Further, I've got one more option over here, in which case I can see, for example, data which is having comma separation over here. I have the same output here as well, but in this case, as compared to the earlier option, I don't have separate columns. I have only one column available with the comma separation over here. Whereas in the earlier case, you can notice that I had separate columns available over here. If that doesn't look nice to you, the display, you can simply go to table design over here, uncheck banded rows, and this shows fine. Select on the color palette over here, apply the color that you want to apply, and work with this scheme. Have no filters, and this looks like a normal table. So this particular table is having columns across, for example, over here, but in this case I can see I've got single column separated by the comma. How can I achieve the same output again using this option? And directly select the option here, Home tab, Format as Table, pick up this option, for example. Okay, my table has headers, absolutely fine. I can then uncheck the banded rows, uncheck filter buttons, apply that in advance over here, pick up the format I applied earlier, that's fine. I can now go to Table and Range in Data tab. table arrange in data tab. This option I've got here also. And what is this option? That's for pivot table. Insert pivot table also shows me the same icon available here as is the icon shown in data tab here. So my first icon is my table range for data tab, which will launch Power Query. However, let me go to this option here. With the single cell selected over here, that's perfectly fine. Click on that, I get to the Power Query now, which houses my earlier tables also. So this is my table, which is a size table again, for example, colors. Enter. So I've got single column colors over here. Control Shift plus sign to zoom in the query over here. I now need to make the unpivot of the data available over here. Same, as many times I can see this over here, I can see that record also over here. So I can simply go to color column here, home tab split column, or the transform tab split column, both are same. After selecting the color column here, I can go back here, apply by delimiter, and then comma separation is there. For example, if I simply click OK, each occurrence of the delimiter is fine. I get a separation here only. That is not what I want. So I can cross it, make a selection, split column by delimiter. So in this case, what I can do is I can go to advanced options over here and consider the rows in this case. It will now split the data for these columns by the rows and create those records over here as my unpivoted data requires. Click OK, and that's so simple. Creates my data set available here, which I saw here also. Exactly same copy. Getting the output for unpivoting of the data as per my requirement over here. That's quite cool, I guess. And that's the way we can unpivot the data. We saw the difference in transform, then we saw unpivot 2 times, and then we saw how to pivot the data also. So much so far. Thank you so much. See you next time.